It's unfortunate that when we usually think of a rigorous, demanding curriculum, something that is truly challenging and will push you to your limit, we think about the STEM disciplines, namely things like engineering and mathematics and the sciences and medicine. We don't think about the liberal arts. We don't think of them as demanding and challenging and something that will push you to your limit. However, if you study the liberal arts from a classical traditional perspective, then you will get something that's rigorous, demanding, challenging, something that will push you to your limit, where you ground yourself in logic, rhetoric, and grammar, and where you then apply those skills to reading great works of fiction, great works of philosophy, great works in religion, and so forth. Now today I want to briefly explore with you all a really good textbook that's Logic is a Liberal Art, An Introduction to Rhetoric and Reasoning by R.E. Hauser. This book grounds logic in the liberal arts, not in mathematics. And if you think about the origin of logic, it really started with the liberal arts, not with mathematics. And it's really a more natural approach to logic, in my view. If you study any logic, study logic in this traditional verbal style. This is a newish book compared to some other ones that are out there. And it was published in 2020, so it is newish. You will learn logic in it, but you will also learn some rhetoric and some grammar as well. Here's a quote from Voltaire. "What is madness? To have erroneous perceptions and to reason correctly from them." Quite true. Here's the table of contents. So part 1 starts with grammar, rhetoric, and logic. So it begins with grammar, a grounding in grammar. And then it jumps into rhetoric. The canon of 5 rhetorical skills and the 5 parts of a classical speech, the 3 rhetorical appeals. Aristotle invents logic twice. Part 2 deals with the logic of terms. So we're thinking about language, thought, and reality. We're thinking about the so-called categories, where we're classifying things. We're thinking about the predicaments and the predictables of Aristotle. It also gets into the 4 causes and definitions. How do you define things and the different kinds of definitions? Part 3 deals with the logic of propositions. So there are chapters or lessons on categorical propositions and also thinking about categorical propositions in context, finding them in great works of literature and being able to, so to speak, analyze them in terms of logic. Euler and Venn diagrams of propositions, immediate inference such as opposition, conversion, obversion, hypothetical propositions, advanced hypothetical propositions. Part 4 gets into the logic of arguments, 2 kinds of reasoning, namely deduction and induction, the categorical syllogism, testing the validity of categorical syllogisms in prose. So there are many exercises where you're reading a great work of fiction or literature, and you will find, hey, this is actually a syllogism. So being able to spot a syllogism in ordinary language is a skill that is developed in a book like this if you actually practice the exercises and study this book. Venn diagrams of categorical syllogisms. You have things like enthymemes. There's a lesson or chapter dealing with hypothetical arguments, induction and complex arguments, and there are answers to selected problems, which is very important in my mind because then you could make sure you're on the right track when working through the exercises. One thing that's surprisingly missing, I suppose, is a chapter on fallacies, but it's a small price to pay, so to speak. No one book is going to be the book to learn all of logic, so to speak, or to master logic. You really need to read at least a couple of books to try to master logic. But it is well written, and it is a book where you're studying logic, not from a mathematical point of view, not with all this symbolism and notation and so forth, but with, hey, English sentences, composing propositions, composing syllogisms, and testing those syllogisms. It gets into primary sources, by the way, because this does ground itself in Aristotle. It also even gives you like a history of logic. So it's not as if the author is ignorant of mathematical symbolic logic. He's certainly not, and he gets into that as well. Although, again, this is a traditional logic book. This is a verbal style logic book. So you do get into Venn diagrams, like I said. Let me kind of flip through here, if I may. There are answers. So you have, for example, diagramming sentences. So when it comes to grammar, and I can tell you for sure, when I was in high school, I didn't really study such things. We had barely any grammar. It wasn't rigorous, that's for sure. But here you will get some rigor, right? Let me see. Let's see. Extend categorical arguments. Validity. Advanced conditional propositions. So it is a worthwhile book to check out. I definitely recommend it. I'll provide a link below. Perhaps in the future video, I'll work through a few of the exercises from this book. That would be cool, I think. But regardless, I hope this video has been helpful. If you're interested in learning logic, especially a logic that grounds itself in the liberal arts, not in mathematics, this is something to check out and study. I'm the Amateur Logician from amateurlogician.com. See you soon. Be well.